folks. Your friendly neighborhood old soldier coming at you again today from Robeson County, North Carolina, where it is hot, humid. If you're outside having to work in it, you're miserable. Anyways, for you, Brother Kyle, I hope this finds everybody doing well today. We're going to talk about points 8 and 9 under the 45 points of the Communist Manifesto to take over the United States. Point 8 was kind of moot now, but not. And it was basically the Soviets' plan under Khrushchev, or in spite of Khrushchev's promise to settle it, to keep East and West Germany as separate entities, to include East and West Berlin. Now, we all know in the 90s, the Soviet Union collapsed, per se. The Iron Curtain came down, and freedom reigned. You know, Scorpions had a great song about it, Winds of Change. That song really hit home, because I was over there when all this was going on. When the song came out, it was just the time of elation is what it was, you know. I've spoke about it to some extent before, where the people in Hungary and Austria got together, and Austria dropped its borders with Hungary to allow the Hungarians to come across and shop and commerce and just whatever. Well, by default, that allowed them to come into West Germany. And so East Germany, you know, people were going through Hungary into Austria into West Germany as well, with minimal restrictions. Long story short is the Soviet Union wanted to keep the German country into two halves, East-West. Part of it being that East Germany was one of several Warsaw Pact nations, or what we referred to as buffer states for the Soviet Union. In other words, if the World War III was to have started, we would have had to fought through all of those countries to have got to the Soviet Union. It also gave the Soviet Union time and distance. Say again, time and distance to get their armies stood up and pushed westward. Even though they had armies forward deployed in all the Warsaw Pact nations, because many of those nations did not like living under Soviet control, so the Soviets had to send in armies of occupation. Hungary, a classic example, because of the uprising in the 50s there. And the Hungarian people didn't want to live under the thumb of Soviet control or communism. Sadly, they were crushed by Soviet might. Now, so some people say that point's moot now, old soldier, because East and West Germany are now one nation. Yeah, it's true. You could even say it's sort of reversed itself, because now the Western alliances of NATO have allowed other former Eastern Bloc nations into their fold. It's kind of a reverse wall right now, if you will, because Russia still has a very, very large standing army, been rattling its saber. There's been the invasion of Ukraine, Georgia, okay, in an attempt to regain territory lost when the Soviet Union collapsed and fell apart. There was even non-direct threats that Russia wanted to get back in as far as Poland at some point in time. Okay? So with that being said, that played out into the 90s. Point 8. And honestly, China likes to scroll into politics around the world with North Korea, various other countries. They would love to they still want to keep Korea divided. Okay. Now, what I'm about to tell you on that is, what I'm about to say on the next point there is my opinion only. Okay. I've got no bona fide fact other than people I've talked to that have been stationed there and their observances and things that they have kind of read into the politics and everything that's going on over there. For years, the reason we kept such a large force in South Korea is to keep North Korea from coming down and taking over the entire peninsula. In later years, we have withdrawn much of our forces from there. I think right now there's only a brigade-sized element of American troops in South Korea. Talking to some of my friends and other folks that have been there through the years, they are all under the impression, they are all under, I say all, the majority, that the only reason we're really keeping a presence there now is to basically keep South Korea from moving north and taking over territory. You're saying, well, so North Korea's got a large army, they've got their friends China. This is true. This is true. But I think if North Korea were to attempt to invade, South Korea would stomp a mud hole in their face, and they would drive all the way until they got to the Yalu River and retake the whole peninsula, which would not set well politically with China. But pray that doesn't happen. But again, that's why I think we still maintain a presence there now, is to ensure that their military doesn't do anything stupid. Again, my opinion. Last time, my opinion. So now, that brings to the next point on their point 9. The suspension of atomic testing while negotiations take place. The Soviet Union would keep us at the negotiating table, and while we're in negotiations, we agreed not to do any more atomic or nuclear testing. Now, they supposedly are supposed to do the same thing, but what we know about all communist nations is they'll say one thing and do another. Let me say it again. All communist nations, when they're in negotiations with other nations, other powers, they'll always say one thing and do another. One more time. All communist nations say one thing and do another during negotiations. Don't believe me? Go back and study the Korean War, Vietnam War. Negotiations held at the UN with the Soviet Union and Red China. You see, they play child games. They'll tell you that they're not going to do anything, but go ahead and do it anyway, but in secrecy. And then when they get caught, they deny everything. You're saying to yourself, old soldier, what's that got to do with these points? Because as the Soviet Union did that to us during that time frame with atomic testing, so does Red China on everything from the economy to their intentions with Taiwan to the support they provide North Korea. Okay? Cuba, same way. They'll say one thing but do another. That's the whole point of communism, folks. That is the whole point of communism. Much like what's stated in the Islamic Quran, that it's okay for a believer of Allah to lie to their enemy in order to survive. Don't believe me? Get a Quran and read it. You see, communists will continue to use these 45 points even today, even though some of these things are what I'd say moot, like the East-West German thing, okay? It's moot, but it's not, because it still gives an example of something they put in their playbook here, today, and now to get what they want. And the problem we've got in our Congress now is that the conservatives there right now, outside of a handful, when I say handful, I can count them all in one hand, that are not afraid to call out the Democrats there now for what they are, as communists. Because they'll go around in secret and do things that they know they're not supposed to do, doing things they know are illegal. And then when they get caught, they lie to the American people, blame conservatives for it happening, and continue doing right what they're doing. And the feckless, weakless rhino conservatives that we've got say, oh, don't do that again, or we're really gonna have to bear down on you next time. That's why we're covering these 45 points, so you can see and identify things that the Democrats, i.e. the communists here in America, are using now to get their way. Like I said, the East-West German divide. What are they doing now between the races? What are they doing now between people that are Christian and non-Christian? It's a part of their identity politics to divide so that they can conquer, keeping groups of people separated under those things. The worst thing that the left wants to see is a multiracial, multi-religious, conservative, cooperative organization come together. So they'll continue to play the race game. They'll continue to play the ethnicity game. They will continue to divide. They'll divide based on sexual orientation, based on religion, based on, I say based, but divide on religion. Okay? Even where you live, they will divide. North, south, east, west. Whatever they can use, they will use to divide us. That's why, like I said, with the East-West German, Khrushchev promised to settle that and eventually allow the unification of the country. Of course, he never did. Okay? Nor will these Democrats until they get their way or we take them out. One of the two. Because there's nobody in the Congress, Senate, or the House of the Democratic Socialist Communist Party of America that truly are willing to meet in the middle. And then, like one viewer mentioned yesterday too, to me on Facebook, because that's the other thing. It's a side note here, tangent. Governor Cuomo resigned. Okay? Governor Cuomo resigned. Honestly, I think it's a great thing. I think he's a sorry-ass bastard. Pardon my language, but there you have it. And he ought to be tried and convicted for what he's done to those ladies. Ought to be tried and convicted for what he's done to those ladies. Now, according to the New York Attorney General's office, the investigations are still ongoing. It's a good thing, I guess. But the real reality, I think, is that his resignation was a distraction for when the Senate was voting on that bipartisan infrastructure bill, which I think is 15 Republican senators. The 2 from my state voted for it. Tom Tillis and Richard Burr, you sorry butt pieces of garbage. You, Tom Tillis, do everything in my power to make sure you don't get reelected, sir. And Richard Burr, you better thank your lucky stars this is the last term you're serving. You've already lied to and stole from the people of North Carolina. And sadly, Tom Tillis, you're following suit from that same criminal, Richard Burke. We sent both of you up there to straighten this mess out. And y'all pull this bull crap. But anyway, folks, that's all the time I got for today. I got to concentrate on this traffic, head for my regular doctor's appointment. So, until then, my friends, keep your eyes open, ear to the ground, neck on a swivel. Stay safe, stay armed, stay vigilant. God bless, take care. And until tomorrow, this is Old Soldier out.